Hello friends, and welcome back to Keefe's Kitchen. This week, I'm making something Italian, all right? You gotta do this when you talk about Italian food, all right? I'm making gnocchi, all right? Gnocchi is a delicious, super easy, probably the easiest pasta that you can make. It's a potato-based pasta, so you mash some potatoes, mix in an egg, mix in some flour, some salt, good to go. Okay, super simple. Knead everything up into a dough, roll it out, cut it up, boil it in water, throw it in sauce, boom, you're done. This is one of the easiest pasta recipes you will make. It's practically foolproof, incredibly delicious, and I'm excited to share it with you. So, without further ado, let's make some gnocchi.
Alright, so first thing, we need to boil some potatoes. Potatoes are the base, the most important thing in this gnocchi. Potatoes. So we're going to cover them with water in a pot to boil. Pretty self-explanatory, really not that difficult. And turn the heat on high and boil these for about 30 to 45 minutes until they're fork tender. This is about 2 pounds worth of russet potatoes. You can use other kinds of potatoes or whatever, but make sure it's about 2 pounds for the recipe. So once they're fork tender, you can take them out, and we're going to let them cool on a plate so that we can peel the skin off and then start to mash them. And you don't want them to boil for too long, otherwise they'll turn into mush, and that is not what you want. So after about 10 minutes of cooling, they're still really hot though, you're able to peel those skins right off. They come off really nicely. And we'll just peel all the skins off, put them into a bowl, and we'll begin to mash them. Alright, so use your potato masher, I have too many utensils. Anyway, use your potato masher or a potato ricer if you are fancy and have one of those. I do not, so I just use a potato masher. And a fork too, if you've got some lumps in there you need to get out. And mash it up nice and fine. And then we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients to make our gnocchi dough. So once it's cooled a bit to the touch, make a little well in your mashed potatoes and add in 1 raw egg. Crack it right in the middle. And we're going to use a fork to start to incorporate that egg into the potatoes. Now don't overwork your potatoes. You don't need to, you don't need to beat it up, right? Just kind of gently work the egg in with the fork. And then we're going to take some flour. So this is 2 cups of flour. I ended up using all of it. Really, because the recipe is formulated for about 2 pounds of potatoes, that 2 cups of flour is perfect. So you may use a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the weight of your potatoes. So turn out your potato and egg mixture onto a floured work surface, put some flour on top, and gently start to work in the flour. It's a really messy process if you're doing this in an area that's not made for it, like I was, but it's okay, it worked out. So gently start to fold it in, and you're going to gently knead in the flour until you get a nice smooth dough that's free of lumps and is lightly sticky but not too sticky. And that should take about 5 minutes. And once you've gotten that done, set aside your dough, clean up your workspace, and we'll start forming the gnocchi now. So you can cut or rip portions of the dough off, and we're going to roll it out into a nice long tube of gnocchi dough. So you're going to want to get your gnocchi dough to a thickness of about, I would say, 1/2 inch. And you're going to cut the gnocchi in 1-inch pieces. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Got it rolled out to about 1/2 inch in diameter. And again, this is not official. This is what my gnocchi looked like, about 1 inch long and 1/2 inch thick. But to be honest, you can make them as large or small as you like. It's really up to personal preference. Set those, once you've cut them, onto a floured baking sheet, and you'll notice off to the side I have a pot of salted water. That's for boiling and cooking the gnocchi here in just a moment. So while our water is coming to a boil, take a non-stick skillet, and we're going to put about 3.5 to 4 tablespoons of butter right in there and turn the heat on to medium. We're going to let that melt as we cook our gnocchi. Now this is going to be for our sage brown butter sauce that we're going to do. And honestly, gnocchi is really versatile, so you can have it in really any sauce you want, but I want to try this sage brown butter. So, once your water is boiling, place the gnocchi in one by one, and I boiled them in small batches, about 15 at a time, but that really just depends on the size of your pot. And boil them until they start to float, and once they start to float, you can leave them in for a minute or two, and then they'll be done. So this is what they look like. They just look like little potato pillows, which is kind of nice, kind of cute, right? So once they have floated up and they've cooked for about a minute or so, you can pull them all out. Now for the sage brown butter sauce, one of the most important things is the sage. So here I have some fresh sage, and I'm going to pick it off of the stems and just toss the sage leaves right on top of the butter. And we're going to let those cook for about 40 to 50 seconds so they become fragrant, and you don't want them to burn or anything. And once they've toasted up just a little bit in that butter, we're going to add our freshly cooked gnocchi right in there. You don't need to dry them off or anything. And you're going to arrange them in a single layer and cook them at medium heat for about 2 to 3 minutes per side. And you'll notice they start to brown up really nicely and get a nice golden brown color. That's what we want. Once it starts to get nice and golden brown on one side, you can flip them over and make sure they get that color all over. And you'll see the butter is starting to brown now the longer we cook, and the sage is starting to crisp up really nicely, fried in that butter. And this is a super simple sauce. There's really not anything else to it. You're just going to fry it and eat it. So super simple, and hopefully you like it just as much as I did. And like I said, about 2 to 3 minutes per side, and then you'll be finished.
All right, friends, the gnocchi is done. So this looks fantastic. I mean, take a look. Take a look at the color. Oh. And typically you're gonna have this with Parmigiano Reggiano, but I don't have any. I just put some salt on it. But I do have. I don't ever do this. But I'm gonna stand up. Some of that brown butter. Let's pour a little bit right on top. Yeah. Now we're cooking. All right, so let's give this a taste. Got a piece of sage. Okay, so I've seen brown butter sage gnocchi on the internet forever, and I've kind of judged it, to be honest. I've always thought, it sounds kind of hipster. It's fantastic, and I see why it exists. I gotta have another bite. It's like buttery, salty, crispy, but still soft, flavorful little mashed potato dumplings. And the crispy sage is fantastic. I didn't realize that would be my favorite part, but it's almost better than the gnocchi, to be honest. It's fantastic. This is great. I am so happy that I made this. And I really think it's so easy. And really, honestly, anybody could do it, okay? If you really wanted to cheat, you can go to the store, buy some prepackaged gnocchi, super cheap to do, and you could make this recipe even without, making your homemade gnocchi. But I think you should make it, because it's easy to do, tastes great, and I think you'll be really happy with it. So, that's all from me. I'm gonna go eat this. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week. Bye.